Hey there and welcome back to Mass Effect. My name is Pete and today we finally complete the UNC Cerberus assignment. In the last video we quickly took care of one other assignment in the Voyager Cluster, that was the espionage probe assignment, and because of that we are still in the Amazon system, but we need to travel over to the Yangtze system. Before we begin the mission we can do a bit of planet scanning first. We can find some beryllium, some thorium, and also a Prothean data disk. The location for our assignment is then the planet Binthu, or Binthu, but that sounds strange. I think I'm going to pronounce it Binthu. And we are taking my favorite squad mates Garrus and Rex. Although being close to level 50 on this mission you can take pretty much whoever you want. Alright, we have landed, and first things first, let's have a look at the journal. I normally don't show this, but let's scroll down to the collection assignments. As you can see, we have already collected all Prothean artifacts. We also have completed the collection of Thorian insignia, and we have also found all the elements. That leaves us with only one Salarian League of One medallion and 4 Asari writings, and then we have all these tedious collection assignments completed. That does not mean, however, that we're going to stop looking for collectibles, as they always give us a nice amount of money and also some experience points. And especially the latter are important if we want to reach level 50 or above, and while we are not necessarily running with a min-max strategy on experience points, I still want to see how far we can level up our squad. And so, even though we don't really need it for a collection, our first stop on Binthu is next to a palladium deposit. And with that surveyed, we can now mark the first of 3 Cerberus research facilities on the map and then get the Mako moving. As a reminder, we were sent here by Admiral Kahoku, who has discovered that a team of Alliance Marines that he has lost to a Thresher Maw ambush were actually lured into that ambush by a group called Cerberus. He has now found out that Cerberus has 3 research facilities on this planet, and he has asked for our help in finding out what Cerberus is doing here. And as we arrive next to the first facility here, we can see that whatever they are doing, they probably don't want us to learn more about it. The 2 turrets here are pretty easily taken care of though. The only thing that we need to pay a bit of attention to is the fact that they are very close together, so firing the Mako's main cannon at one turret will also damage the other, so it is possible to accidentally blow up one of these turrets with the main cannon and not get the XP for killing it on foot. Another thing that makes this fight very manageable are the 2 big structures on the left and right of the turrets. Those provide excellent cover and can actually be used to take out the turrets entirely on foot. That would take a while though, so I decided to go with the slightly faster approach, and yeah, with that we have already cleared out the outside. Let's now go inside. Once again, we end up in the standard underground facility layout, and in this one there is actually nothing of value for us to loot, so we can go straight for the enemies. Those are all in the main area, and we can hopefully lure a few of them into our little choke point here. The most common enemy type in this assignment is probably the Cerberus Commando. That is the standard soldier type class, able to use both shield boost and immunity. They can be quite hard to take down even on higher levels, and that is mostly because of their immunity ability, which makes them last a long time on the battlefield. The other main enemy type is the Research Technician, and those should generally be prioritized, because they are Cerberus biotics, and even though they only have lift and throw available as offensive abilities, that can be enough to completely disrupt your group. Also, you might be wondering what is up with the blue force field in the middle of the room. We'll get to that in a minute. First of all, let's clear out the room, and in preparation to what's inside of that force field, let's quickly think back to our first encounter with Cerberus on Chaska. You might remember the UNC colony of the Dead assignment. That was when we discovered a large number of colonists turned into husks, and it was made rather clear that those were actually Cerberus experiments gone wrong. So Cerberus does have a bit of a history experimenting with dangerous units and creatures, and for the moment I would just like you to keep that in mind. And after taking out the sniper, we can now have a look inside the force field. And what we see and also quickly get rid of here are 3 Rachni workers. The game now tells us that the facility here is cleared, and we can quickly activate this station here for a line from Garrus.
Looks like Cerberus has other bases on this world, Shepard.
And before we get back to the Rachni, let's also level up. With Shepard, we continue to improve his sniper skill. Then with Garrus we could put points in assault training, but the increase in weapon damage really isn't all that high, so let's rather improve his tech abilities with a point in damping. With Arax we have a similar situation. We could put points in combat armor, but we already have advanced shield boost and I feel that's good enough for now. So let's instead upgrade his barrier ability, because once we get into the second half of that really makes him very hard to take down. Another bonus would be that with a few points spent here, we could unlock Stasis, just the very basic version of course, but still another ability at our disposal, and even though it doesn't do any direct damage, in the right moments it can still be very useful. Now back outside, let's mark a mineral deposit on the map, get moving again, and let's also talk a bit more about the Rachni. Now, to quickly repaint the picture here, we have just been inside a Cerberus research facility, holding several Rachni workers inside a force field, with additional protection provided by several soldiers. Now, first of all, the existence of the Rachni alone here is of interest, because so far there has only been one other point where we saw some Rachni, and that was on Noveria. So it seems not completely unlikely that there is some sort of connection between the Binary Helix research facility on Noveria and this Cerberus facility here on Binthu. And if we in fact do assume that, then it seems very likely that Cerberus is doing similar research to what Binary Helix was doing on Peak 15. And even if there is no connection at all, Cerberus studying and potentially experimenting with the Rachni is definitely not good news. Now, to quickly get back to the gameplay, we just salvaged a crashed probe, and as we now mark the second research facility on the map, it remains interesting to see what we find there. But so far, Cerberus' track record isn't exactly stellar. Not only are they responsible for the death of a group of Alliance Marines, they also willingly turned a group of colonists into husks, and are now apparently experimenting on the Rachni. And I think even with their role being somewhat separated from the main quest line, this behavior actually makes them one of the main antagonist forces in the game. Of course, we have Saren and the Geth, but in terms of other organizations, Cerberus really takes the cake in my opinion. Compared to Cerberus, a corporation like ExoGeni, for example, can hardly be classified as evil, and it was even mentioned that ExoGeni was worried about sending samples to Cerberus. And yeah, I know that ExoGeni willingly surrendered a group of colonists to the Thorian, but as far as I'm aware, ExoGeni never really intended for anybody to get hurt in the process. Cerberus, on the other hand, seems to be much more ruthless, with very little regard for the life of anyone who stands in their way, and yeah, I just think that needs to be pointed out from time to time. As you can now see, we have already arrived at the second science facility, so let's quickly get rid of the last turret on top and then go inside. The facility here looks more or less exactly like the previous one. One major difference, however, is the availability of loot. Before we head into the main area, we can get our hands on 3 assault rifles inside a storage locker, and then we can head inside, but let's do things a bit differently this time. There is actually nothing that keeps us from disabling the force field while the Cerberus troops are active in the area, but doing so will release what's kept inside. And in this case, that's a fully grown Rachni soldier. So I think let's give Cerberus a taste of their own medicine. The Rachni will obviously not last too long, but depending on who it attacks first, it's actually able to get a kill for us, and even if it's not, then at least we don't have to deal with it after the fight. By the way, this approach does give us the full XP for every kill. No matter what happens, if the Rachni kills a Cerberus soldier or if Cerberus kills the Rachni, all those kills give us the full amount of experience points that we would have gotten if we dealt the final blow. Now, it seems like Cerberus has already disposed of the Rachni in quick fashion, but generally I think I still prefer this strategy, even if it just results in the commandos using their immunity ability before we reach them. With a rather long cooldown on that, they can then no longer use it against us, which could make this fight slightly shorter. Now, disabling the force field early has one major disadvantage, and that is the fact that it removes a huge amount of cover. With the force field still intact, you pretty much have a small corridor going around the edges of the room. With it gone, the only real cover are the pillars that mark the corners of the force field. This could become problematic because in all 3 facilities we have at least 1 sniper against us, and the Cerberus commandos also have pretty good accuracy with their assault rifles. On top of that, it now becomes a bit harder to lure them out one after the other, although the overall number of enemies is pretty low with only 5. And that, by the way, is true for all 3 facilities. So in the first one, with the Rachni workers, which are pretty much killed in one shot, disabling the force field early is really not that useful. Just like last time, the sniper is the last enemy to take down, and with that kill we have now cleared facility number 2.
Let's head to that next base, Shepard. This is my kind of mission.
Before we leave, there is some loot available here, although it's not much. There is an aid station in the back over here, and then around the corner to the left of it, a technician kit. And that would be all. Let's return to the entrance and head back outside. Back in the Mako, we don't really need to mark the next location on the map because it's very close by. You might have seen it when we approached the facility earlier. As we go up the hill here, we can find another Prothean pyramid. You might remember that we have already discovered one more of those, and I find it so disappointing that we never get to learn what these pyramids are all about. I mean, the Protheans are kind of a big deal in Mass Effect 1. The whole conduit thing, the visions, all that is very prominently placed in the main quest, and it's kind of sad that for these pyramids there's not even a one-liner or any kind of hint that gives us some sort of idea what they might have been used for. Anyway, very fittingly, we recovered a Prothean data disk from the top, and now we are on our way to another mineral deposit. Over here we can grab some uranium, and that was actually the second to last point of interest on Binthu. The only place that we now still need to visit is research facility number 3. As we get closer, we can once again see that one is heavily guarded, although once again that shouldn't be much of an issue for us. Maybe while we fight here, a bit of background info on the planet that we're on. Binthu is much like the planets that the Geth built their outposts on, very suitable for a secret research facility. With a surface temperature of about 100 degrees, a carbon dioxide atmosphere, and frequent occurrences of acid rain, I think it's very safe to say that Binthu is not really an inviting planet. That of course makes it perfect as a hiding spot, and it seems like Cerberus thought the same way. And with the 2 turrets disposed of, we can now make our way inside one last time. No surprises in terms of the layout here, and also the first room holds nothing of value. That means we can press on and head straight for the main area. And here we will once again disable the force field early. With only 5 enemies against us, the 3 Thorian Creepers that are kept inside are a welcome reinforcement. And yes, Cerberus was apparently not focusing only on the Rachni, they also seem to have gotten their hands on a few Thorian Creepers. This is very interesting because it might connect them to the ExoGeni experiments, because as I know there was only one source of Thorian Creepers and that was more or less controlled by ExoGeni. That means to obtain some Thorian Creepers you would need their support, and we do actually know that Cerberus and ExoGeni have cooperated in the past, because the so-called colony of the dead on Chaska, the colony where people were turned into husks by Cerberus, that was actually an ExoGeni colony. So while their relationship might not be the best, there certainly is a connection there, and I think that is one of the more important minor details that can get overlooked very easily. Also, it's kind of cool to see how tough the Thorian Creepers actually are. Not a single one of them was actually killed by Cerberus, who admittedly focused more on us than on the Creepers, but still if we leave them to themselves, the Creepers are able to do a lot of damage here.
Time to get Kahoku some payback.
With the last enemy taken care of, we have now cleared the 3rd research facility, but we're in for a sad surprise. That is the man himself, Admiral Kahoku, lying in the middle of the room, and we can learn that despite being locked in with the Thorian Creepers, the cause of his death was actually an execution.
Shepard, over here. It's Kahoku.
I guess Cerberus found him after all.
It seems like Cerberus got wind of his research into their activities, and they decided to take countermeasures. Now, despite this tragic outcome, we don't want to leave the facility just yet. There are a total of 5 medical stations scattered around the room, and while the loot we can find inside is somewhat redundant, it's all pretty high tier stuff, and worst case we can make a bit of money from selling that. The reason why we get a lot of the same stuff here is because these medical stations are programmed to only drop Certa Foundation armor, and while that exists in light, medium and heavy versions, and also for all 4 races present in our squad, the chance is relatively high that the exact same armor drops twice here. And yeah, that's it. That is the UNC Cerberus assignment now taken care of. Before we make the cut though, let's quickly run back to the entrance of the facility, leave again, and then return to the Normandy. And if we now jump into the galaxy map, a third system has been unlocked in the Voyager Cluster. That comes as a direct result of us completing this assignment, and we will travel to the Columbia system next time to take care of the UNC Hades Dogs assignment. For today, however, we can make the cut. I can say thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!